kiss you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah! You want to run or you want to duck down? You want to duck just go over and get onto the bench and stay there.
You play to win the game.
Hello?
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets.
Well, all right. Oh, I got the wrong background again. I get so mixed up, everybody. My brains are scrambled eggs. All right, here we go. Where's the background for the right dude? Flapper Jimmy Jam. Here it comes. Boom. All right. That feels better. Oh, all right. I can move around in here. It felt so cluttered, before with the other backgrounds, man. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Thursday Think of It. We do that, and we call it that because today is, in fact, Thursday, Dom.
Is it really?
Yeah. I know it happens fast. Dom and I do the Monday night, the 10 o'clock mock, and then it's the Talking Jets panel. Next thing I know, 5 minutes later, I'm yelling at Tigo about some bullshit. He's disagreeing with my fact that I want a pass catcher in the first round. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's Thursday. I'm like, oh, wait, what? And then it's the weekend and I'm already Monday. I don't know what's happening, Dom. It's like a crazy thing. Well, all that said, my good friend, how are you?
I'm well, man. 21 days. As a matter of fact, at this time, 3 weeks from now, the Tennessee Titans will be on the clock.
From right now, 8:05 p.m., that will be a Thursday. I won't be doing the Thursday Thick of It that night, everybody. I don't know if you put that together yet. We will be doing the Talkin' Jets Marathon, as you guys have come to expect. Ryan, Matt O'Leary, and myself, we start about an hour or two before the first pick in the first round, and we go all the way until the final pick, 200 plus 200. What is it this year? 230.
I have no idea.
Some shit. Let's take a look here, Dom. See? Well, I don't want to use that page. I got to save that page. Hold on a second here. Did I do it all? Yes. Okay. So this is how many picks we got in the draft this year. It looks like it's going to be an even 257. How's that sound?
257. Oof.
Yeah. That's something, isn't it? Let me shut some shit down. I'm afraid of lagging again.
Laggeritis?
Yeah, dude. I lagged. Well, I've had 2 power outages today here. So it's weird because it's not really storming, but it's like that ominous, thick gray.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but the power went out twice here today. So I'm a little nervous, and we had that issue last week or Monday, whatever.
Well, you're crystal clear. I will say this though. Is your mic on? Are you using the computer microphone?
Looks like I'm using the computer mic. Here we go. You guys ready for Soldier GreenBean?
Thank God I'm here.
Everybody, how you doing? All right.
Much better, dude.
Ooh, what are you wearing? All right. So dude, that's exciting. 21 days we got. So like I said, we'll do the thing. It's on the Talking Jets network. We start from an hour, let's say an hour before pick 1, and we hang out till all the way about an hour after 257 players are selected from the college ranks. Dom C, this is his Christmas. How you feeling about this draft? Are you excited? A lot of people are telling me, I don't know. I don't feel it for this draft. They're not buzzed up like we are every other year.
I'm excited. Listen, I mean, I don't think that the draft class has the same amount of hoopla as it has had in recent years. The 3 big wide receivers, the quarterbacks last year. I mean, last year was an anomaly. It was a special class. It was a really, really good, strong class at the top, and that's just not this class, right?
Yeah.
The juice of this class, like you're going to get guys that go 15 that you've been seeing, mocked or you expected to go somewhere in like 45 or 50.
Hey, are you frozen? Dom froze. Is it me? Did I freeze or is Dom frozen? What is happening?
Because they're all those guys are going to be relatively on the same. Did I freeze or did you freeze?
Well, you tell me. Was I like this?
No, you went black.
Oh, I did? So let me
You did.
see.
Black.
I think who froze, everybody? Tell us in the chat before Dom keeps up. Who froze there? Was it Dom? Was it Bean? Who is it? Wait. Oh, let me see. I can figure it out. Oh, it was you. That was
Was
all
it really?
you. Yeah. Here.
Wow. Let me check. I got 970 megs download right now. Let's see the upload. Hang on.
Oh, it's all about the upload with the live streaming, everybody. You can have 970. That's just crazy to me. I've never seen such numbers. Like I've told you guys, when I was on the road, I would get like 40 download, and I would just be looking for 10 upload. If I got 10, I can do a live stream.
I'm a little low on the upload, but it's still not terrible. 125 megs.
On upload?
Yeah.
That ain't fucking low, buddy.
Well, the
Dude.
kids have all the shit going on upstairs. They got
That's
one guy,
what it is.
one kid's playing Call of Duty. One's
Yep.
on the he's got
Star
like
Stables with the horses.
He's got a D. My older son's got like this little DJ beat thing that he hooks up to the internet and makes music. So everyone's doing their thing.
A lot of bandwidth being chewed up right
Yeah,
Yeah.
125 uploads. So
yeah. So overall, like you said, it's an interesting draft class. I mean, you cut in and out, so it's hard to gather.
yeah, I was saying it's just like it's not a very strong class at the top, and those picks from like 15 to 50 are all going to be relatively bunched in. You're going to see a lot of guys that we thought were mid-second round guys going in the first, and vice versa, because everyone's kind of got roughly around the same tier level or the same grade on those guys. So that's where you want all your picks, and it sucks, why? Because the Buffalo Bills got 3 of them. They pick at 30, and then they pick twice at the end of the second round.
Yeah.
It's like
How'd they do that?
Their 2 picks, and they own Minnesota's second round pick.
Because Minnesota, huh? What they
I
get?
believe it's Minnesota's. I believe so.
Because they traded Stephon Diggs, so that had to be giving them something the year before.
Oh, maybe, let's see. NFL draft order.
What the hell's that?
2025.
Hey, you?
What? What are you talking about?
Get the fuck out of here. I'll never go to that site again. I don't like when sites just put up a live ad in the middle of nowhere. I don't like it. That's it. You're done. That's how I roll.
So Buffalo has the Vikings pick from the Texans. So it's for the Stephon.
Yeah.
It's for the Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs. Right on. So yeah, man. So yeah, that sucks. Our the cream of our division gets a nice burst of reinforcements. They get a nice cavalry running in with the first and second round picks. But what we got to do is remember this: you can't live your life or just make your decisions based on keeping up with others. You just can't do it. Like it's one thing to say, hey, look, the team in my division has 2 tight ends. I got to make sure I can cover them. Yeah, stuff like that. But you got to stay the course with your plan. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are here. Darren? Is it Darren? Darren Muji?
Darren Muji.
Yeah, so they're here. And they got to do what they got to do. So you use this free agency, you give a bunch of 1-year contracts, you get a couple select guys that you think can be here a long time, and you do that. You get a fresh young quarterback, and you just use the draft. You plug some holes. You do whatever you can to make this kid succeed, to help him succeed. That's what you do. And then, because if you go into next year's draft, let's say you go into next year's draft and Justin Fields has a 3,800 yard, 30 touchdown season, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. 500-600, whatever, on the ground, mess of touchdowns. And we pull off a 9-win season. You go into next year and you got your wide receiver 1, you got your wide receiver 2, you got your offensive line built, you got a tight end, all these things, you got your running backs. And you go into next year's draft, and now you're like, okay, now we're gonna take the next step. You don't have to start over and say, okay, I'm bringing in a rookie quarterback. Because look, Jaden Daniels is great, And a lot of these guys, they play well, but the truth is you're pushing reset to a degree. It doesn't have most of the time. They need a little bit. They need a little time. Even like the Strouds of the world, they play real well, but they're not taking you to the promised land. It's just not going to happen in that year. So it. Rather than doing that, if Justin Fields can be something, which again, we all know, we're all in Realityville. It's a long shot. Let's see where it goes. But it's going to be this is a year where you can really plug some holes. You got to stay your course. You can't be we're not overtaking Buffalo this year. Is that a fair statement, you think, Dom?
It's a very fair statement, GreenBean. And for the lack of splash that there's been in free agency this year for the Jets, I got to be honest with you. I like, and hear me out. All right. I know that a lot of these guys are nobodies and they're just bodies, and some of them will just be camp bodies. But at least there's bodies put in places where it gives you the opportunity, if you want, to take best player available. Maybe not early on. Like, you still need to address the tight end room. You still need to bring in a right tackle or somebody along the offensive line that can compete. But, with these couple little moves that they made along the defensive line, with the couple little moves they made in the backside of the defense, at cornerback, even I'm not going to say it's complete, but even the moves like that they've done in the wide receiver room. No, nothing special, nothing flashy. You're not gonna write home and say this wide receiver core is anything, that's championship caliber. However, it's enough that it doesn't make every positional need, every position have a need at number 7 or at number 42, right? It gives you a little bit of flexibility later on in the draft to take best available, right? You plug a right tackle, you plug a tight end, you got to get a receiver. If you started those three first, if you took those 3 positions, 1, 2, and 3 in whatever order you wanted, that gives you day 3. You could take best player available. It doesn't really matter,
Yeah, and I like that. That's what you really, you want to be able to do. You don't want to take best player available. It's always so annoying when you have a plethora. You're deep at a position, and the best players and you take them anyway. Like, I don't know. I think
like
that's
the McCagnon draft.
Right. Like that stuff is like, all right, man, well, you're stuck. You're listening to the rule to a fault. You know what I mean? And that's not smart either. You have to be malleable. You have to be a fucking real life human being. You know what I mean? Not all these guys are. We got a bunch of robots running around. Well, the statistics say, like that kind of a thing. And it's like, all right, well, relax, buddy. You can be real too, So, but yeah, it would be real nice to get into those, even the 3rd round, and be able to, to take the best player available. I really am hoping of some combination of wide receiver, right tackle, and tight end.
Yeah,
in those first 3 rounds. But if they pulled in a safety, nice, thunderous, strong safety type, or even a linebacker, because again, I know we're going to be playing a lot of nickel, but it's like, I don't know. I look at a 4-3 defense with 2 real linebackers, and I see a hole down. That's just how I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now look, Zaire Barnes, I don't know. Where's Chaz Surratt? Is he
free agent?
Free agent, yeah.
No, who we do have. We have Surratt. They do have under contract what's his name? Marcelino Ball.
Hey, what happened to that kid last year? He was like,
oh, right. You know what? We actually re-signed Jamin Davis.
Yeah. Jamin, all right. Okay.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
okay.
Is Jamin Davis going to win you a title? No. But knowing that you have him as a depth piece or something like that to step in and play 10, 15 snaps in base, linebacker's not that. It's not that it's not a need, but it's not that pressing of a need, right? You got Fedarian Mathis and Derek Noddy to play the one tech. All right, you still need another one, but it doesn't make it like you have to get one in round 1 or 2. Wait till round 4 to get your fatty.
Right. I like it. See that, and that's good. Right. That having that flexibility is good. Who was that? He was a young, undrafted free agent linebacker. We all liked him. He came in the preseason and he played a little bit. Sermon.
Yes.
Jackson Sermon
out of Cal. Yeah, he's still around too.
I like Jackson.
I liked him a lot. I liked his tape in college. I thought he was I had a draftable grade on him. I was really excited when the Jets picked him up in as a UDFA.
Yeah, so we got Marcelino McCrary Ball. That's his name.
Yeah.
All right. So Jackson, Sermon, Jamin Davis, Zaire Barnes. Maybe they want to see what they got.
Mm-hmm.
We got Sherwood, big money contract. You got Quincy Williams, maybe not big money, but a nice second contract there. And he's here. We got our two guys, and we're gonna work a rotation. We're gonna give a real live linebacker competition of young players, and we're gonna see who we don't have any loyalty to anybody.
Yeah.
We're gonna see who plays the best. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine not having favorites like Robert Sala's love affair with the Nathan Shepherds and the Chaz Surratts of the world. And it's like, all right, man, well, can we, or Xavier Gibson or
Solly Thomas.
It's like these guys aren't given much, everybody. Can we not be loyal to a fault to them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see that. So, guys, let's start the show here. I want to bring up a comment from the one and only Woody Johnson. All right. Let's see where it is. All right, here it is. I'm just going to put this up. I want you guys to see this comment. Maybe I'll just read it. Here we go. I'm going to read this comment. Everybody listening? Let's see what we got in here. We got 104 on YouTube and 43 on Twitter. That's 147 folks. What's 147 times 2, Tom? 290 something years. 390 something. I don't know. 290 years. So here, everybody's ear holes. Clean them out. Listen to this comment, and I want everybody to tell me what you hear here. So Woody Johnson, our fearless leader, our owner, the common variable in all of our pain. He's asked about Justin Fields, and this is what he says. You guys ready for this? This is Woody Johnson. I think Justin Fields is going to be a total winner for us. All right. Well, that's good. He's going to be the starter, as you found out. Now, that's at least a nod toward Glenn and Muji saying, my guys said this, so that's what it is. I got nervous for a second there. But he says this. I've been impressed with him since his college days. It was him or Trevor Lawrence.
What?
So what is that? It was him or Trevor Lawrence in that draft. And it's like, what do you guys hear? JJ says it means we're screwed. Is he, what do you mean it's him or Trevor? It's Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. That's who it was.
Do you think he's kind of backhandedly taking a little stab at Zachy Poo?
I mean, I think he might. But it's like, but he says, I've been impressed with him since his college days. It was him or Trevor Lawrence. And then the team that he owns took somebody else in between them. Like it doesn't right, but it's got to be something like that, right? Like, what do you guys think? Is he saying Zach sucks? I mean, what is he saying there? Or is he just so lost? Thinking's overrated. That's him. That's his famous quote.
Oh, there's a good. I'm gonna show this. I like this. Hang on.
Where is it on the subject here? I want to see what the comments say. Okay, good.
That's it. Yeah, he's taking a shot at Zach and maybe the previous regime. Maybe he's saying, Joe Douglas, you fat bastard. He forced Zach down my throat.
I told you it was him. I even said, let's keep Sam. And Joe Douglas said, no, the only quarterback for me. Did you see that pass?
Did you see him in underwear? Exactly. Yeah. Roll left and throw right.
Roll left and throw left, I think is what it was. Or throw right, but roll right, whatever. He threw that corner fade. Oh, this is the guy for us. But he's never played anybody. That doesn't matter. Every time he's been under pressure, he looks like he's having a panic attack. Nah. We got Rob Calabrese.
Did you see how well Zach moved backwards? Did you see it? Did you see him scramble backwards?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what Joe Douglas. That was a selling point.
Yeah.
You got Woody. You got to see this guy just completely lose chunks of yards at a time going backwards.
It's a Woody's a D-bag. Gucci says it's a conspiracy, but still Zach's uncle had an under the table deal with the owner. Yeah, but what, so if that's the case, if he's buddies with his uncle, why would he take an underhanded shot? That would undermine that one or undermine.
Yeah.
Right.
It would.
It's just no matter how you slice it, it's stupid. Right. Like it just doesn't mean. And it's like, why does this guy speak publicly? Like, not every owner does this, Tom. You know what I mean? When's the last time you heard the Rooneys out there talking? Or the Maras? Or like, when are they? I mean, I don't know. Are they out there saying stuff? Do they talk ever?
I heard the Maras talk a couple times. Once on Hard Knocks when they said, man, I'm going to really hate it if Saquon ends up in Philadelphia. And then the second time when pretty much at the end of the season when the owners had to speak and they say, hey, he pretty much told this regime, Shane and Dable, that they're fighting for their lives.
Yeah, see, but like, look, when the Rooneys speak, that comment makes a whole bunch of sense, right? And look at it in hindsight. Makes even more sense. Man, I hope Saquon doesn't go to Philly. Like, they actually know what's going on. You know what I mean? And then there's Woody. Oh, man. Thinking's overrated, man. Or walking around with his shirt open and a Woody fucking diamond necklace. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, Dom. It kills me.
I hear you, man.
Let's see what everybody's saying. It's that little bastard running around. He took Zach. Who's that, Jalen? Who's that little bastard running around?
Think Brick.
Brick. He took Zach. Billy says every draft scout had Zach as it. That's not true. I mean, he would. In fairness, yes, he was when the draft came, when draft night came. Most people, it made sense to take Zach Wilson, but I'll tell you who didn't like him was this guy right here.
Yeah, you were one of the ones.
I did not get it. I was like, what is everybody talking about? It's as if nobody it's like it's one of those things. I don't remember what he did in the combine. I don't, but it's like one of those things where like you look at, like I say all the time, like the combine is great. It kind of takes those tiers and refines them. But if you got a guy, you got, 2 years, 3 years tape, whatever it is, and they're not a first round pick and they go to the combine in their pro day and now they are, that's a mistake to me. You know what I mean? Like that to me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. Like the best thing is what they did on the field, Dom, right?
Yeah.
But look how fast he is. But was he that fast on the field? Like how many people did he burn? None. Well, all right. I mean, yeah, okay, great. It's good, but that shouldn't take it. And Zach Wilson, when the season was ending, he wasn't a first round pick. And if he was considered like late. You know what I mean? He was like quarterback 4, in that pool. And then when, like Billy's saying, when the draft came around, it was like even guys like, what's his name? Chris Sims, he had him as his QB1. And it's like, based on what? I don't understand it. So you're right. A lot of people had him rated there, so it's not, you can't go back and revise history. It's very true, but not everybody, not everybody. And, the idea of Sam Darnold, again, we can go back and, it's easy to have, 4 years removed and look back. Right. But, I don't know. Zach is an anomaly. I mean, we didn't help him. Let's say that too. Let's be real. Let's bring in all the facts. Palikar says it was just a vote of confidence in his new quarterback. Awkward, sure, but it's just owner talk. Okay, that's very real stuff. It's just Woody being Woody. He's just talking. He's just saying, I think he's going to be a winner. What's he going to say? Oh my God, I can't believe they signed this bum. Imagine he said something like that. Candlejack says he's throwing whoever decided to pick Zach under the bus, and that would be one Joe Douglas. Right.
Yeah.
John says Darnold was always the better prospect out of the two.
Was he?
I don't think so. I mean, but prospect, yes. I think Sam, I don't think there's a debate. But Sam, he was the 31st ranked quarterback in the NFL when we traded him. So remember when Joe Douglas got 3 picks for him, a second, a fourth, and a sixth, it was considered quite the special trade.
Yeah.
You got the 31st ranked quarterback.
And it's what's funny is that Sam, again, going back to the old Parcells mode, right? Parcells he had, check marks that all the quarterbacks had to hit before he would consider drafting them, right? They had to be seniors. They had to have started 36 plus games. They had to have a completion percentage over 75%. They blah, 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 all this, that, and the other thing. Sam was none of that, right? Sam was a 1-year wonder, and is exactly what Sam was. He was a 1-year wonder. So what do? They move on from Sam and take another 1-year wonder. A 1-year wonder in the COVID year when he was playing St. Mary's School of the Blind,
Yeah. So taking Justin Fields now it makes, look, I mean, granted, he hasn't, it's not like he had a great career thus far, but he hasn't, he has shown those flashes, and a guy with, 4 years of NFL experience who has shown some progress, I guess, but I think he's going to be a total winner. I'm going to drop a poll in here. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to drop a poll. I want to know what you guys think Woody's real problem is. Okay, the poll is up, and I'm going to get to our buddy JJ Hamza right here. Thank you for the super chat, my good friend. He says, we keep doing the same thing. Good athlete that can't read a defense for all the tea in China. Yeah, I mean, the other thing, it's like, right, I mean, that's specifically to Fields, but in general, right? Like, it's like when we, what we were talking about last night is, especially when you get into the mid rounds, but it applies to the top of the draft too. It's like you have this idea like that, when you draft guys, especially the guys that slide a bit, you look at him. He's 6'4". He's a wide receiver. He's 6 foot, let's say 6'3". He's 218 pounds. He runs a 4.4, and he's got fucking long wingspan, and he catches anything you throw to him. It's like, well, why is he sliding to the 4th round, right? Well, it's because he's got things to work on. His routes aren't good. Maybe he's got a little bit of an attitude, or whatever it might be. Usually what we're looking at, there are things that he doesn't do well enough to take higher. So, he's what we call developmental, right? We're going to develop him. We like what he brings, but there are things to work on. So I'm not going to use high draft capital on him. I'm going to wait a little bit. If he's there, I'll bring him in. And then the hope is that in 1, 2, 3 years, I got a player. So what then becomes paramount? What becomes paramount is the makeup of the individual, right? So that's where interviews and you talk to the coaches that have had him, and what does he do? What does he do in his spare time? Is he hanging out with a bunch of thugs? Is he playing, Call of Duty? What is he doing? Is he a punk? Is he a good kid? He's studying. You see that kid? Who was it? He was at like a basketball game, and he was this guy, and he's working on his fucking homework. Who was that this week? It was like a player. He's going to be drafted, and he was like,
I didn't see.
Oh, it's like it's this great thing. He's got above a 4.0 grade point average, and he's going to be drafted. And he's sitting at like a big sporting event. He's like 3rd row, and he's working on his homework. You know what I mean? That's a guy that if I got something to work on with this guy, he's going to put in the work. He's a guy I can develop. Now, when you look at a guy, he's known as lazy. You see the Kyler Murray contract. We had to put in the contract. Hey, look, you got to study X amount of days a week. You know what I mean? It's not good, right? So you got to look at the makeup, which is one of the reasons the guy I'll use as an example. You hear me say it every Monday night. It's why I like Mason Taylor so much, right? It's like what he comes with. He's an imperfect prospect.
Yeah.
But he's talented, and he's got a nice body of work. but he's imperfect, right? His blocking's not so great. And you know what I mean? There's things to work on. But if you look at him, coming from the Jason Taylor bloodline and having Uncle Zach Thomas, those are the guys that raised him into this field. He's likely to be the guy putting in the work necessary to absorb your development and transcend the tier he's on right now. Am I making sense, Tom?
Yep.
So
I'm with you.
that's what you got to look at. So that's where these things come. And like when you look at a guy, I forget who we were talking about now. Shit. I can't even call back to my own point. But anyway, so that's what you start looking at especially like the 3rd to 6th round. Then the 7th round, you're just like, look, Dom goes, you bet on a trait. Does he do one thing exceptionally well? Is he super fast? Is he really strong? Whatever it might be. You bet on that because he's got something that you can work with. Now, I tend to, not that I disagree with that, but I lean more towards how many games were his knuckles bleeding? You know what I mean? Like, I want that guy. When the running back, when we're out of linebackers, did the running back run up to the coach and go, put me in, coach? Like that kind of guy. Fucking Wayne Corbett. That's my favorite example, He shouldn't make it. By everybody's assessment, the guy's never going to make it, but guess what? He did anyway. And he's a legend in our world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how we look at that. But anyway, let's get to Sam Aiken. Our buddy Sam checking in. Thank you, man. He says, the picks the 49ers were offering is the reason I never wanted Zach. Is there ever any reason to turn down such a bounty? Dom, this is a great question for you. Now that in that example, we know that the Niners traded up. They wanted to trade up. Everybody knew it. They were knocking on our door. We just hired Saleh and the linebacker coach and the offensive line coach and LaFleur. We had a nice contingent. They were all buddy. If anybody had the inside lane to the trade value, it was us. So they ended up paying 3 firsts, including their first at 12 that year, and a 3rd round pick to move up to the spot after us. So the theory would be we could have squeezed another couple drops. But even if that trade, but we chose not to because we wanted a quarterback, right? And that would be a reason. But give me some reasons to Sam's question. What would make you turn down a bounty? Like 3 firsts, 2 additional firsts and a 3rd round pick.
Well, I mean, in the Jet situation, they were between a rock and a hard place, right? Because you knew that the way they were building, right? They were going into year 2 of this complete break it down to the studs rebuild. I'll give Joe Douglas credit here is that he had the foresight to say, all right, we need, let's get a quarterback on a rookie contract, because building it down to the studs and then paying Sam isn't going to kind of make ends meet. So the only way to do it is for that reason. If you're not in a position right now where you have much of a choice, but to bank that you're going to draft your quarterback of the future right here. You're going to have him. He's going to be on a rookie deal, so on and so forth. Like if your chips are all pushed in this instance for Zach Wilson, then you don't make the trade, because what are the 3 first rounders going to do when they're, when you draft them, you got to pay those guys. And now you're paying Sam whatever you would have had to pay him. Right. What was the 5th round? What was the 5th round option on Sam? What would have been $20 million?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. You know what I mean? Something like they didn't make any Pro Bowls and any of that stuff, but still, Yeah. So, I mean, that's the whole thing. Look, the Jets could have traded back. There were other quarterbacks. There was the Mac Jones who came out of Alabama. There was, if the Niners traded up to 2, I'm a firm believer that they were taking Zach Wilson, right? Like it wasn't they ended up taking Trey Lance. But I think they were trading up for Zach Wilson because, like Billy's point earlier, Billy SBC, I think a large consensus of people fell in love with Zach Wilson at that time. So it was Trevor Lawrence, but far and away, except for Chris Sims, maybe a smattering of others had bought in, but Zach was in many, many circles the number 2 guy. Justin Fields had that Lamar Jacksonitis thing going on. These old heads, they. they're like, I don't know, he runs too much, but they had a good point. He was very much a one read. I mean, that was the thing I didn't like about Justin Fields. I watched quite a bit of his full games, leading into the draft that year. And you saw it time and time again. He'd go back, first guy covered, take off. You know what I mean? Like it was just, so there was all that. So Zach was the number 2 guy that year in many respects. But you had Trey Lance, you had Justin Fields, you had Mac Jones. And then look, you had Kyle Trask, who ended up being a 2nd-round pick. But he was another one. And then you had Kellen Mond, who was definitely going to be a little bit later, but a lot of people liked him too. I liked Kellen Mond as a mid-round pick, right around where he went. But yeah, so like you could have traded back, gotten that bounty. Like I like to say it like this all the time. Like you said, trading Sam made sense, right? We had a new regime. They weren't in love with him. He was the 31st ranked quarterback. He had happy feet that you had to train out of him. He was a bit shell-shocked.
Correct.
And you had to pay him. You know what I mean? You had to pay him. So it was like, okay, well, let's move on, fresh start. But 3 firsts and Mac Jones, 3 firsts, a third, and Mac Jones trumps Zach Wilson. And even then, before we knew what we know now, that was where I stood. Like, dude, But it would that matter even if it's not a quarterback, Dom? Like, like a guy like a Joe Alt or Marvin Harrison, like one of those guys are there. Does that get you to turn down a big, huge trade package?
I don't know, man. They were, they thought that they had their sights set on Zach.
I mean, like this year, not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He's saying, like, is there ever thinking about like in a hypothetical scenario?
This year, if you give me, I'll trade back to the middle of the first round. If you give me your first, give me, obviously let's swap first. And you want to throw me a third? I'm cool. You know what I mean? That's the value. That's the value of the number 7 pick in my eyes. Like I'll get the same exact guy at 15 as I will at 7.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, which is what, when we say things like there's a lot of people like, dude, the Jets should trade back. And I think Dom is too. We're in agreement. If we can get a trade back going, do it. You know what I mean? But the other part of that is somebody's got to love somebody so much that they want to do that.
Yeah.
So
and
what players could garner that?
No, that's okay. I was going to say the same. I was going to, get to the same point as you are. I think that even though I don't think he'll fall, I think if Shedeur Sanders will garner some just because he's a quarterback. I think if someone is confident that the Saints are making a play for Jackson Dart, which is buzz that I'm hearing, and they, they like him as much. Maybe you go up for him. Outside of that, if there's a team that wants to get ahead of the Bears, if they think the Bears are going to lock in on Ashton Genty if he's still on the board. Outside of that, I don't think there's anybody. There's not one. No one's trading up for Ted McMillan. No one's trading up for Mason Graham. There's the strength of the edge rushers after Abdul Carter is in round 2 and 3. The tackles are, lackluster at best. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, it's. I mean, look, it's like there are players, but I don't know. This year, like Dom said it perfectly, and we were talking. Tigo and I were talking about it last night. Like if I trade back, I can get a second or I can get a third. I'm just as happy with Ibuka, you know what I mean? Like at 15 and a third versus whoever Tet, because then you're going to be able to get then you got a better chance of landing the position that you don't draft. Let's say it's a tackle, right? Because Membu's gone and Campbell's gone and Banks is gone or Simmons, whoever. Maybe you take Simmons. I mean, what would you feel about if we slid back and we ended up still going the tackle route with Justin Simmons?
Josh Simmons.
Justin. Who's Justin Simmons?
He's a safety.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Listen, when you look at just just watching the prospect on film, there's a lot of people that will argue that Josh Simmons is the best tackle in the class. And that's even with Will Campbell. If you on board with Will Campbell playing tackle at the next level, based on his film alone, there's a lot of people who think Josh Simmons is the best tackle in the class. I think he's very good. I don't know if he's the best. He's a very, very grabby, but I digress. The big thing with him is he's come back from a really, really big injury. Right? It's not an ACL, it's not an MCL. He tore the patella tendon. That's that tendon right in the front of your knee, which holds your knee to your shin bone. He tore that completely. That's that's a big ask. Are you going to spend a top 15 pick on Josh Simmons, an injured guy? Like,
yeah.
To me, you're asking for trouble there.
Especially the Jets. The Ravens can do it.
If you're the Eagles, you're picking at 30. Yeah, well, fuck it. We got a championship. Yeah. We got a pipeline of guys. Let's take the shot.
Right. That makes sense. And that's good. This is what I say all the time, Dom, right? You've heard me say this. Like, one of the things which is a benefit of having Aaron Glenn here. Because he knows. It's like you see the way he's handling our press. He already knows that these guys are buttholes. You guys are not my friends. I'm not playing the fucking game with you. And I like that. The other thing is, I'm always upset when these regimes come in here and they don't realize that this is the Jets and they take an injured player in the first. It's like, not here, dude. It's not gonna work here. It's like maybe out there and another team out there in quiet Arizona or San Francisco. It's somebody.
Speaking of Arizona, Bean, did you see your boy Trey McBride? The highest paid tight end in football with his.
Yeah, I didn't see. I saw you guys talking about it. That's all I saw. I didn't catch it. What's the contract?
He's getting paid $20 million a year, 4-year extension.
Reese, who's the next highest paid tight end?
I would guess it's Travis Kelce.
Historically, I mean, not historically, but traditionally, typically, they're one of those positions that are on the lower end. You saw the big push that Kelce and Kittle, they made that organization of tight ends to try to increase the value of the tight end, which I fully support, by the way. Yeboah was invited to that. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do.
I was very proud of him. Very proud of Kenny Yeboah. But yeah, so that's interesting.
Here it is. It's
the value gets reset, Tom.
4 years, $76 million with $32.5 million guaranteed. To average $19 million. The second highest paid tight end is $15 million. That's George Kittle. Nope, I stand corrected. That's not right. Let me organize that. The second highest paid tight end is Travis Kelce at $17.125 million. So he's making $2 million more than Travis Kelce, who makes $1 million more than TJ Hawkinson, who makes $1.5 million more than George Kittle. So you have
Hawkinson. Oh, wow.
Who makes $750,000 more than Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert's the 5th highest paid tight end in football right now.
Wow. But I'll tell you what, guys, once again, if you remember the 10 o'clock mocks back then, right?
Yeah.
Was that your comment or who was it? Tigo in the chat. They said, and we didn't draft him because we signed, I think it was Tigo. Because we signed CJ Uzoma in free agency and Conklin, right?
Yeah.
And you said actually
we drafted Breece Hall.
Yeah. Well, maybe we wouldn't have drafted Breece, who knows? But that was one of those things. Like I love to use examples about when Jets fans, when our crew gets told we don't know what we're talking about, I beg to differ. We were in love, infatuated with Trey McBride. Where did he end up going? Was he in the second round or did he end up sneaking in the 50s?
First? No, in the 50s.
That's right where we wanted him, Don. Well, we were at the top of the second that year. We had 2 seconds, if you guys remember. We used one of them to trade up and grab JJ, which fine, right? That's a fine use of your second round pick. I think we threw in a 5th or something like that to get up to back end of the first and take Jermaine Johnson. I applaud that. Very exciting. And then we ended up trading up a couple of picks I think we jumped
picks. We jumped Atlanta, who was dead set salivating for Breece Hall.
Right. So we jumped them for Brees Hall. So we ended up, using 1 second-round pick on Jermaine Johnson, which gave us 3 firsts, and then we used the other second-round pick on Brees Hall. No complaints, but it was one of those things where, look, once again, Jets fans, it's like the Creed Humphrey or the Trey Smith. We loved these guys, and the Jets like,
Mhm.
Who did we take? I think we took Jonathan Marshall. No, Trey Smith went before him, but not by much.
No, Trey Smith went around before him. Trey Smith was a 6th-round pick. Jonathan Marshall was a 7th.
Jonathan Marshall was a 6th. We didn't have a 7th. What draft? That was a 2020 draft, right? Let me see here. Let's just do it because it's tough to remember.
Go ahead.
I'll Yeah, go ahead and pull up danger zones. I don't know what the fuck our boy Dano, I think, might be crazy. What's he talking about, Dom? Make sense of this for me.
We only lost JFM trade to win Zach Wilson trade, in my opinion. Optics. I don't get it.
Now, for context, we traded Zach Wilson to Denver for chump change, right? And ate the contract. So we gave him away. Got a little something, which we did turn into. I think we turned it into Braylon Allen in a roundabout way. We ended up, we moved around a lot last year.
Yeah.
But I don't know how trading Zach Wilson for chump change and then, quite frankly, trading JFM for even less because we got a 2027 or 26 6th. I don't know how that works, Dano. We need more from you, buddy, because I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know what you're doing here. All right, let's get up into the 6th round here, Dommy Doms. All right. The New York Jets took, look at this. It was maybe it was a 21 draft. I'm sorry, because I'm like, Braden Mann. Who remember how we had to run him out of town?
Yeah. Well, he stunk. Let's call it what it is.
He was having a dip. He's been great for the Eagles. He's been fantastic. They love him. You know that? We cut him and they swooped in. It was like, I don't think he walked out of the building before his agent said, the Eagles want you. You know what I mean? It took 5 minutes. All right. The 2021 NFL draft looked like this, everybody. So we had, who were we talking about? Trey Smith went to the New York Jets. Oh, all right. We got Brandon Eccles in the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
We also got it's Hamza Nasruddin.
That's right. Who I loved. I thought that was a steal.
Yeah, me too. I really did. Nasruddin was maybe we should have just kept him at safety, Dom.
Yeah.
That was all right. So Jonathan Marshall, maybe he was a 7th round pick. Let me see here.
I'm pretty sure he was 7th. Could be wrong, but
yeah, I didn't think we had a 7th that year. We didn't. Where the fuck did Jonathan Marshall go? He was our last pick. So Trey Smith was the 226th pick in the draft. So he was the 3rd to last 6th.
The 3rd to last 6th.
Yeah, so only 2 more picks in the 6th round went after him, and then it was the 7th round. The Jets, like I said, there he is. So we took Jonathan Marshall. And that's the thing. Like, Jets fans are screaming at the top of our lungs. Like, dude, this guy was in 1st round conversations. And it was the blood clot thing. We took Jonathan Marshall because of his RAS score. Right, Dom?
Yep.
Remember?
Yep.
And you got Trey Smith. The Chiefs said, yes, thank you very much. And he's been a Pro Bowler for them. And Jonathan Marshall's out of the game, I think. I mean, he might be bouncing around.
No, he's out of the game. I believe he's on a UFL roster.
With that RAS score, really? You know why, Dom? Not one time. This is a fact. I studied this. Not one time did Jonathan Marshall's knuckles bleed, ever. Not one bloody knuckle game for Jonathan Marshall. I looked into it. I watched them all. I looked. So, Dano, I think you're drunk. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's get to this next super chat here. Sam Aiken checking back in. Dude, last night in the stream, it was so fucking funny, man. Like, me and Tigo. So it was like we had like 2 super chats for the whole hour. And then it was like 5 minutes. And I had already promised my wife I was going to come in at 9. She wanted to talk to me, right? We had this whole thing set up. 5 minutes to 9, we get a couple super chats. So it's like 9:10. And I keep saying, guys, I got to go. And we keep going. Red bomb. But they're super chat. Dude, I ended the night with 14 of them. I had 2 before at 5 minutes to 9. Right, or maybe 3 at 5 minutes to 9. We ended up with 14. The last one, and Red Bean, I want to tell you this. I ended the stream, and a last super chat came in like that second. I had already ended it, and it said, "You know, you don't have to read all of these." Isn't that funny? Red Bean made me laugh. Me and Tigo laughed about it when the stream was over. Red Bean. So know that it did land, and it tickled us. I even told my wife about it. But anyway, Sam Aiken checking in. As a talent evaluator, picking a quarterback that high starts your clock. No? Why do that if you have no one Knapp to develop? And that's the thing. We can't forget that. We did have Greg Knapp, which was he was the glue of that staff. And they just never recovered, really. But what are you saying here, Sam? So the talent of picking a quarterback that high starts your clock. You mean like your career?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Why do that if you have no one to develop him? So, well, I think, obviously when you build a coaching staff, and Dom, you could correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
You believe.
You're wrong. I'm kidding.
Didn't take long. You believe that the staff you've assembled is good. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment. Hindsight being 2020, man. What a disaster. What a disaster that whole regime was. You think? Here's a question, and I know we are in a rabbit hole right now, but do you think Joe Douglas ever gets another GM job?
Yes, but I don't think it's immediately. Like, I think he's going to do a couple years. Is he with the Eagles still? Is he still there?
No, he's not with the Eagles at all.
Let me see where he is.
I think he's collecting the paycheck.
Well, it's over now.
Is it?
I think, yeah, because he filled out his 6 years. That's the first time Woody's ever fired anybody without having to pay him for fucking 2 years. Let's see. His general manager Jets. His Douglas was with the Ravens and Bears and Eagles. Where is he now? No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't look like he's out there anywhere. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I think if he goes and gets a personnel job, assistant GM or something like that for a couple years for a successful organization, I think so. Because Joe Douglas, look, make no mistake, he did a lot of good things. Like, he proved that he can trade with the best of them. Now, granted, that petered off the last couple years. His trades weren't necessarily all that good, but don't forget, look, the Jamal Adams trade was a big one. I mean, that was one of the best trades, in recent memory. That's how good it was. The NFL was like, really? Wow. Then the Sam Darnold trade right on the heels of that was another one that people were like, holy shit. Remember, we were calling him Trader Joe.
Yeah.
And then
we got even more excited when he traded Blake Cashman and got a fifth
and got
round
a sixth.
Yeah.
Who ended up really making
stud.
really making good, but who knew at the time it was like he was a throwaway.
Yeah.
But the other interesting trade that he pulled off, guys, remember Dan Brown, our tight end? He traded him to the Chiefs
for Dr.
Blocker.
Yeah.
And then they cut him like 2 weeks later and we re-signed him. And it was like, this guy's amazing. He's a wizard. You know what I mean? So he proved that he really does know how to work the trade thing. And he hasn't, other than Zach Wilson, he hasn't missed. You could say Mekhi Becton too, but Mekhi Becton went to another team, played Pro Bowl level football, and got himself a nice 2-year contract with the Chargers, I think it is. So he's not a bust. You know what I mean? He didn't work out for us. But Joe Douglas, really, that first round pick thing, he hasn't really missed. You know what I mean? You look at the second round pick, the Jets notoriously for the last 15, 20 years, it was a joke. Just trade away. Dude, trade your second round pick, man.
And don't even look at a wide receiver in round 2.
Right, man. All the years of wide receivers in round 2. So yeah, I mean, Joe Douglas basically flipped the first round pick thing. Guys, don't forget, we had like a 10-year stint where we didn't offer one of our first round picks a second contract. That's not a good track record. So he, but really what he did wrong, I mean, obviously the record, but really what he did wrong was the coaching staff. You know what I mean? That's the big whiff, was the coaching staff. Robert Saleh, for whatever positives he had, not a head coach. You know what I mean? Not a very good head coach. But yeah, I think he'll get, I mean, if he wants it. Now, then you look at a guy like McCagnon, never. He would have to work 20 years in the NFL and be like, really the pivotal piece to somebody's success. And it's never going to happen. He collected 2 more years. No, didn't they extend it? He got at least 2 years of full pay after we fired him. Amazing, right? Imagine that, Tom.
I wish.
Oh,
I wish I could.
That's all I want. That's all I want for Christmas is a 2-year, a $2 million contract for the next 2 years. I don't got to do shit to earn it. Oh, I'd be in Guam. I'd be down there at the tip of Chile. I'd be in Antarctica with I'd be like this, fucking. All right. Then you'd see me skiing in Tahoe. Then you see me climbing the pyramid.
You'd see me just kick back
on a recliner
in Hugh Hefner's silk robe. Not doing much. Not doing much. Got my drink sitting propped on my belly, with a straw, so I don't have to move that much.
That's right. Little tiny people next to you with the fans.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
throwing grapes at me.
That's right. Throw grapes at me. That's what I want. Yeah, we should all be as successful as Mike McCagnon, and he did nothing. That guy was terrible. All right, so yeah, Sam, I do agree that the clock ticks, but I also subscribe to the idea that like it's not the sole thing. Like if you build a great a very solid team, like again you're hitting on your picks, things are the rest of the team is doing well. Like you've done a very good job contractually, and everything's healthy. Just the quarterback you took sucks. I think that shouldn't be you're not tied to it. I think you get another shot. All right, Red Bean. This is to make sure everybody knows that green is not the only color where beans are concerned, right? That's what we're working on here today. Red Bean checking in. The chat admonished me for sending a super chat so late. Oh, I didn't even know that this is what it said. That's so funny. My apologies. Just wanted to recognize the word. No, dude. And look, man, believe me when I tell you, I so appreciate the super chats and the memberships. If I ever talk like that, I'm busting balls with friends. Like, I certainly am not ungrateful. Like, I want you to know that. I thought it was hilarious, quite frankly. So please don't take it the wrong way, Red Bean. And I certainly don't want to preclude others for, being motivated to support the channel. It's appreciated. Believe me when I tell you. I don't know if you guys know this. YouTube takes 30%. So that means if we get 10 super chats, 3 of them, YouTube took it anyway. So you guys help us so much, and then just being here and making it worth fucking spending this hour or 2 hours, whatever we're doing with you guys. It's amazing. So I'm truly grateful. Please don't take anything I said the wrong way. I was just having fun with it. It was funny because my wife was texting me like, dude, you said, and I was like, I know, because every other time I'm able to get off right at 9. And it just so happened the night I promised her I was coming in, that was happening. So anyway, what else we got, Dom? I mean, so we got the draft coming up. That's kind of
let's delve into that for a second, Green Bean.
Yeah.
All right, because we've been talking about Tyler Warren, we've been talking about Armand Membu. We've been talking about big fatties and, so on and so forth. Let's touch on some of the things that Jets fans probably aren't talking about enough, right? Where do you see, Green Bean? What's the position that you think is an absolute, like, not undervalued, but like not being talked about. That's a need here. Let's talk about that. I mean, I know that the Jets have tons of holes, right? And we know it's right tackle and this and that, and we talk about the wide receiver room, but like I think you and I have talked about it. Maybe it was on Monday. I think we're overlooking the interior offensive line, and I'm not. It's not because you're gonna need a plug and play start or something like that, but you can have 2, maybe 3, actually 3 holes next year, right? 4 possibly from the interior that are not there. The 2 starting guards, Josh Myers, who's on a 1-year contract, and what's his face? Who's the other guard?
Xavier Newman.
Xavier Newman.
Right.
Also on a 1-year contract.
Didn't we re-sign Hansen as well? Didn't we keep him? Let me take a look at our. Hold on. Well, while you're talking, I'm just going to take.
Yeah, no, I just think that I think that's an area that no Jets fans are talking about, right? Because they say
the interior offensive line.
Yeah, we got AVT, we got Simpson, we got Tittman. That's fine for now, right? You might not want to spend this number 7 on a guard to sit and learn, but it's an area that needs to be addressed. I think guard and edge rusher are going like grossly undervalued in terms of need for the Jets.
Yeah, no, I actually think you're right. And I think it's really easy to forget that, right? It's really an easy thing to do because we do have holes right now. And look, the Jets did some work in free agency, right? It was actually active. We were very active, more active even than like last year. The difference being that we didn't really go for any big fish outside of Justin Fields. You could argue that most of these guys are probably names that, the regular fan never even heard of.
Yeah.
No, like when you look at guys like a Stone Smart at tight end, you're like, who? We got Willie Yaboa for what? Right? Or Conklin for that matter, right? For this guy. Or you look at guys, Josh Reynolds, right? Which, by the way, Joe Blewett had a really interesting breakdown on Twitter today of Josh Reynolds. And in his words, wow, man, I'm coming away impressed with this guy. Did you see that? I think I might even see your comment, right?
No, I don't think I don't think I saw it.
But, nobody was, going, dude, we got to get Josh Reynolds in free agency. What about Tyler Johnson at wide receiver, Or when you flip it and you look at the defense, I think as we look into him, a guy like Andre Cisco, perfect fit, really kind of exciting.
Jet fan, grew up a Jets fan. I mean, that's a,
right.
That's nice.
But beforehand, in going into free agency, he wasn't on too many people's lists. And then you got, obviously, I think Noddy was one that a lot of us know about, right? Like we've heard of him.
Yeah.
But Byron Cowart.
I have no idea who that is. I know we signed him. I have no idea who he is.
How about Chris Boyd, a cornerback? So it was an interesting offseason where just like we said, we need bodies. We don't have anybody. Everybody's a damn free agent. You made a great, you really drove this home heading into free agency. When we would look at our depth chart, you're like, this is how many free agents we have. Yeah. Unrestricted. There's a handful of restricted, but mostly everybody's unrestricted. Whether it's Chuck Clark, whether it's Solomon Thomas, all these guys that have been here for a little while, dude, nobody's under contract. Yeah. So we needed bodies. And the thing is, when you have a new regime coming in, it really does, it's to be expected. I just can't look at this page anymore. I can't stand all their ads. And I love Draft Tech, but Jesus, guys, what are you doing over here, man? So, but when you look at the guys that the previous regime kept hanging around, right? There's all these guys. There's no loyalty. It's like, well, I'd rather bring in some guys that I've had my eye on the past couple of years floating around the league, the bottom end of rosters, practice squads, whatever it might be. There's some guys I'd like to work with. So it's to be expected. So not that you got to get excited necessarily, but for the Chris Boyds and who did I say? The Byron Cowarts of the world.
Byron Cowart, yeah.
But you need these guys to be brought into camp. And some of them might not even make it out of camp. You know what I mean? Like they might not make it.
Yeah,
right?
Derek Jones. Is he another one? The defensive end from Minnesota. Did we sign him?
I don't see him. Derek Jones. No, I don't see him.
Yeah, hang on one here. Let me pull this.
Well, we brought in, Brandon Stevens, the other guy, Rashad Weaver.
Rashad Weaver, not
That's the guy.
Derek Jones. Derek Jones was his college teammate.
Gotcha. Now, the interesting thing, though, there's a couple guys in the house that are really interesting. And the guy we all like is Leonard Taylor III, right? LT3, we like to call him. But another guy that's in here is Fedarian Mathis. I've
said the one who's kind of lurking in the weeds that no one talks about.
So excited.
Fedarian Mathis.
So, we did a lot of work, right? So, and then you look at wide receiver room. We signed 2 wide receivers in free agency, and people, myself included to a degree, are still looking at the wide receiver room as there's nobody on it. There's nobody in it but Garrett Wilson. And we brought 2 guys in and have Malachi Corley and Alan Lazard still here. So it's we're looking at, it's dude, we have no wide receivers. Well, we actually did bring in some guys. Now, they're more than likely bottom end of the group if they make it onto the 53. But like you said, the interior offensive line, we were looking at defensive tackles. We're looking at tight ends. We're looking at wide receivers. And our offensive line, what do we say every week? We got 4/5 of our offensive line. Yeah, great. That's fantastic. It hasn't happened here in a number of years. So it's a positive that we're not used to talking about. But very sneakily, right alongside of it, the 2 of the 3 interior offensive linemen are on the last year of their deals. And AVT, if you call a spade, he hasn't made it through a season since his rookie year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And granted, last year was significantly better. He only missed 2 games, I think it was. So, it's like going from 2 consecutive season-ending injuries to only missing 2 games. We're like, oh, hell yeah. But that is kind of normal. Guys get banged up for a week or 2 here. That's normal stuff. But it's we don't know we got 2 big fat question marks at the interior. So your point, I think I agree with it. I mean, I do look at the safety room.
The safety room's another one. The safety room's another one.
But to your point, the interior of the offensive line, and look, truly the tackles too. We do have Okafor. He's here. That's a very good backup. I'm very happy with that. As long as he's not end up being our day 1 starter, right? I'm very happy with that. That's what I like to call, raising the depth. You raise it a little bit. A lot of times your depth guys, they're garbage, and you just hope that nobody gets hurt. But we've seen it time and time again. We go in, this is our line, and then by the end of the game, 2 guys get hurt, and we're looking at, Phil Hansen and Xavier Newman snapping the ball for the first time in his career. And it's how the hell that happened? Yeah. Because we didn't have any depth. So having a guy like Okafor, having Josh Myers in here, that's a fucking really underappreciated moves, man. We took the really, to Joe, all the nice things I say about Joe Douglas, one area he just did not succeed in was that offensive line. And a lot of
it wasn't for lack of trying, though.
It wasn't for lack of trying.
It was not for lack of trying.
But his depth also left a lot to be desired, though, too, Dom.
Mekhi Becton and Cam Clark were the 2 first offensive linemen that he drafted, right?
Yeah.
Now Cam got hurt. I think that injury. He was that pipeline guy that would have been a starter year 2, year 3.
Yep, totally.
All right. And Mekhi, that didn't work out for us. Wasn't a talent thing, just didn't work out for us. Got hurt, blah, 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 attitude, big ticket, big lazy, whatever you want to call him. All right. And then what? And then the next year was AVT, where he trades up to get AVT. And then who else am I missing? I know there was other tackles in there, or other linemen in there. Was that then the following year was Max Mitchell?
Well, Dwayne Brown and
no, I'm talking about just in the draft. I'm talking about just in the draft.
Yeah.
The following year was Max Mitchell. The following year is Carter Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Every year. Yeah.
He brought in Dwayne.
It was Carter Warren. It was Carter Warren. Oh, that was didn't we take 2 offensive linemen that year? I thought we did.
That was a Will McDonald year.
No, Tippmann. We took
Oh, yeah.
Tippmann with our second, and then Carter Warren with our fifth. I think it was fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe Douglas used numerous drafts, and he used 2 picks. You know, you had Becton and Cam Clark. You had Carter Warren and Joe Tippmann. And then every draft, you know, he's trading up. He's using 2/3 to trade up for ABT, which, again, love ABT, but not a move I would have made. I would have stood put. You could have taken Rashawn Slater, who was right there after him, or you could have just waited, got Creed Humphrey. You know what I mean? Like, you could have done some things, but they loved him, and it's fine. You know what I mean? If that's your guy. And I don't think it's really a question. When ABT's on the field, he's a badass. You know, so that's not, you know, that's fine. Well, like you said, he took a lot of shots. And he looked, free agents, his biggest ticket free agents were his biggest one, Laken Tomlinson. Awful. But Pro Bowler the year before, and 2 years prior was under the tutelage of our offensive line coach. It seemed like the best move in the world, didn't it?
Yeah.
At the time.
Sure did. And don't forget Wes Schweitzer.
Oh, gotta love Wes Schweitzer. It's funny too, because we signed another guy that year, Cologne. And that was the guy that I wanted.
Cologne, yeah, and they cut him in camp.
We cut him, and he's out there having a great career.
They moved him to guard, and look at him. He's taking off.
He's
Arizona.
In Arizona, is that where he is?
Yeah.
He's doing great. Just like Chuma Edoga. Chuma Edoga went down to New Orleans or the Texans, I think it is. They moved him into guard too, and he's like, he's having a fucking career, which makes sense because he played tackle, guard, and center in college. Like, why not try him? They didn't even try it. The guy had, you know, swing tackle versatility. He wasn't great. I don't know why you cut a guy like that. That's this regime, this coaching regime. They didn't know their ass from their elbow on the offensive side of the ball. They just really didn't. It's just very, very clear. Hamza agrees with you. We need an O-line and a mother ducking quarterback, you know? So at least as far as the O-line. So let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let's pull up a little bit. Let's just let's do this only because the pictures are so nice here. But we talk about the interior offensive line. First question would be, where do you want to see it addressed, Dom? Like as far as our draft needs and where we go. That's the first question. But number 2, I'm going to bring up some faces, and you tell me who you'd have your eyes on once you establish where you're looking, 3rd round, 2nd round, 6th round, whatever you're looking for. And then let's take a look at some of the guys that maybe you would you'd be looking for in that range. Okay. So let me share my screen here. Thank you, JJ. Let's see here. All right. Wait, where am I? This is the 20, the 25 draft. Hold on a second here. Offensive line. Oh, this is just the guards. Okay, you want to take a look at the guards?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So okay.
Well, and while you're doing that, I mean, I got my draft guide up, so I can give you where I have them ranked.
All right, do that, and then what I can do is expand a little bit and show these guys like their stats.
Yeah, sure.
And stuff like that.
So my number 1 interior offensive lineman, and I know it's very debatable because he was a tackle, is Will Campbell. I think Will Campbell is going to be a guard. I think he might teams might draft him and try him at tackle, but I think ultimately he's going to be guard. And it's not to do with necessarily just to do with his arm length or his wingspan. I just think his game is much more suited. The power profile he plays with, the stout run blocker, I think he's much more suited for a inside zone gap scheme as a guard. Very similarly what I thought with Jackson Powers Johnson, right? You know, he's kind of scheme specific. Neither guy are going to be great in an outside zone, but I think Will Campbell.
Will Campbell.
He's a tackle listed here.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was looking for him. But
yeah.
So yeah, okay. Let's just look a little bit. 6'6", 319 pounds. You know, the knock on him, everybody's pretty up on the news, is his arms, right? His arm length.
Yeah. His arm length. He lacks, like he plays really tall. He's tall, but he even in it sounds stupid, but even in like his stance, the way he fires out, he just plays a little too too high, too vertical for me. He's super stiff, right? I have a feeling that teams are gonna try him at tackle, or if a team tries him at tackle, they're gonna probably move him into guard, a whole pretty quick because he has a lot of trouble with speed rushers. He lacks that he lacks that ability. Like, he tries to get to his spot, get to his mark real quick, to make up for, especially when he's facing speed rushers. And if somebody getting a good inside move or counter move inside, they get across his face really, really easily. I just don't like him necessarily on the outside, but on the inside, he mauls, man. Like when he down blocks from the tackle spot and, displaces defensive tackles, like that's what he does best. And I'm not saying he's a bad prospect. He's this 15th player on my board. He's very good. I just don't know if he's going to settle home the whole time as a tackle. I think he's an inside player, and that's where I would. That's where I would. That's where I would play him.
But you got it. So to get back to my question, where are you looking to address your interior offensive line depth?
Day three.
What
Day
round
three.
are
Day
three?
I think I would start anywhere from 4 to 7. Absolutely.
All right. So the 4th round. So here we go. I was looking at, he's a tackle. I was looking at Matt Millam the other day.
Wyatt Millam.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have him. I graded him out as an interior guy too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So look at these guys here. So who's going to be around? Your 4th, let's say the 5th round. We got 2 5th-round picks. Let's say that's where we're going for our interior line depth. Who's a guy you want us to look at here that you let's even say this? Who's a guy you hope the Jets would bring in to satisfy this role?
Well, I mean, my 5th interior lineman, I think he'll probably be off the board before round 5, if I'm being honest, is Miles Frazier. I think Miles Frazier from LSU is absolutely phenomenal.
Right. You guys have heard Dom talk about him on the Monday Night Show?
You've heard me talk about him a lot. There's just not a lot of things. There's very few prospects. Joe Alt being one for sure, where you really had to watch a lot of film to see a bad rep or consecutive bad reps. I got that from Joe Alt. I got that from J.C. Latham last year. Like, people for some reason didn't love J.C. Latham. I thought I thought his film was phenomenal. One of the best tackle films I ever watched. Tyler Smith, remember a couple years ago out of Tulsa. I loved him too. Like his film was so good. Miles Frazier's film is on par with those guys. Not Joe Alt. Joe Alt's on a level of his own, but you're talking about guys that were dominant in college in every aspect of the game. An absolute dog in the run, moves people, strong, understand, plays with his head on a swivel, which is one thing that I always look for when I'm scouting offensive linemen, right? Can they pick up the stunters, the loopers, all that stuff? He can get out in space, although Miles Frazier's not the fleetest of foot, probably better suited for an inside zone or a gap, power scheme, but he can get out and block. He graded out, I think, as the 2nd best interior offensive lineman in pass protection last year. There's just not a lot that he can't do. So to me, he's being slept on way too much. I think he's really good. I mean, there's tons of other guys. GreenBean, Luke.
They have him ranked. Where'd they have him ranked here? They had him as their 4th overall guard. Like when we do these. We do these mocks using these simulators. We've been using PFF a little bit heavy this year, but even on the other ones, PFN and some others, like he's listed as this late round pick. And look right here. I mean, Draft Buzz, this is a combination of 3 different organizations, kind of a collective.
Yeah.
You got him as the 4th overall guard. Does that sound about right to you? Maybe even higher.
That's actually a little high. I mean, listen, he's my, where is he here? He's my 47th player in the class, right? So I have a late round 2, early round 3 grade on him. He's my 47th player in the class. I have him as my fifth interior, as my number 5 guard. But the guys I have some guys in front of them that a lot of other people don't see as guards. I think they're guards. Will Campbell, I have in front of him. He's a guard. Gray Zabel, who played tackle at North Dakota State his whole career, but he's going to move inside, either play guard or center at the next level. So I graded him out as an interior. Donovan Jackson, who was the left tackle for, he was a guard. He was a left tackle for Josh Simmons after Josh Simmons got hurt. But I see him as a guard at the next level. So I go Campbell, I go Donovan Jackson. And my number 3 is Tyler Booker. My number 4 is Gray Zabel. My number 5 is Miles Frazier. And then I got Tate Ratledge right after him. And he's a guy that I think is very, very hot and cold. People either love him or people just don't like his game at all. And for me, listen, you get a guy who's 6'6", 320 pounds. He's got a mullet. He wears a mustache. You know that he's not messing around, but just real powerful guy. I love his anchor. Again, to me, things I look at especially for interior guys, because you get these guys like Dexter Lawrence, you get these guys like Chris Jones and whatnot, that they're big, massive, strong defensive tackles that play so low, that win the leverage battle. So these guys are going to get these guys are going to get beat. Can they regather and re-anchor and kind of get back into the rep a little bit? And that's what you see in guys like Miles Frazier. That's what you see in guys like Tate Ratledge, where they're able to get their, they're so strong, they're able to just kind of get their weight back in balance and fire their hips through and re-anchor and just stop a guy who's got the momentum. I think like in a phone booth, guys like Ratledge and guys like Frazier, I'll take all day long.
From Camden, New Jersey, everybody.
Frazier is,
yeah, Frazier. So Hamsa's got a little question here. He says, Dom, well, not really a question. He's willing to bet you dinner that Campbell makes a very good right tackle. Well, based on what? What are you Doms out there studying, JJ Hamsa?
No, listen,
I'm fucking. I've had it with this Dom C blasphemy in this house.
Hey, everyone sees things differently, right?
Totally.
And he might be, and listen, truth be told, he might make a very fine tackle. I would bet on him being a guard. I happen to like, and I'm not comparing the two because of the arm length. I know that's lazy. It's a lazy take, but if you remember a couple cycles ago,
I'm just going to bring him up. What was his name again?
Peter Skronsky. I loved Skronsky.
Yeah,
I loved Skronsky. I really thought Skronsky could hang at tackle. He's become, even though he's had his ups and downs, but he's become a really good guard. I think Campbell's a better player than Skronsky. I think he could be a dominant guard. Could he hang at tackle? Sure. I think he's going to be a better pro at the inside. And again, this was before all the arm length stuff came out and before the wingspan stuff came out. I just thought his game was better built on the inside. And truth be told, you could say that with a lot of the tackles. You could say that with the majority of tackles. There's very few pure tackles in this class. There's very few of them. That's the honest to God truth.
They all went in last year's draft. That's why.
My tackle one in this class is Josh Connerly. I think he's a pure left tackle. Outside of that, Armand Membu. People think that he might be a better guard than a right tackle. Kelvin Banks. People think that he was the Outland Trophy winner, best tackle in the country last year. People think that he's going to have a career that starts inside.
Who's that?
Kelvin Banks from Texas.
Yeah, Kelvin Banks.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that think that he's going to be, he's going to have to start his career inside. Ariant Thiersry, another hot name, hot button name these days, right? He's the guy that we kind of all target to play right tackle if, we go weapon in round 1. Guess what? He might be a guard. He might end up being a guard.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Look at this list. I mean, it's like where you're talking about. You said Membu is he's not going to have any problems at tackle.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he could. Again, I think he could be a really, really, really good. He's just so athletic, man. He could be a phenomenal guard in a wide zone scheme. You put him in San Francisco, in that Shanahan office and something like that, and I'd probably play him at guard instead of tackle. I would. because I think he'd be dominant. Jonah Savanea from Arizona, you know, another guard tackle flipper. Anthony Belton, pure power guy. Like this guy just kicks ass, man. 340 pounds. You know, played tackle his whole career at NC State. Might be better off moving inside at the next level.
I like a Polynesian offensive lineman. Now, that's not the way. You don't want to draft on that alone, of course. But I don't know. I like him. I just like his face, Tom. You know what I mean? I like his hair, baby. 6'4", 324. Yeah. Savanea. Keep your eyes out. Keep your ears open for that name.
Yeah, he's a top 50 player for me, too.
You got him over Ursery?
I do.
Very interesting. Jalen Messina checking in. 2 words, Kyle Williams. Dom C, give me your breakdown.
A lot of buzz recently on Kyle Williams. I think he's good. I mean, you know, he'll go probably, you know, before the end of day 2. I think he's I think he's a late round 2 to late round 3 kind of guy. Little small, you know, only 5'11", 190 pounds. So questions on if he can hang outside. His game to me is very reminiscent to Elijah Moore. Like good ball, like very good hands, good receiver, you know, can get separation, very twitchy. He's got speed, he's got athleticism. For a guy 5'11", he wins so many 50-50 balls. And he's a yak guy. Like you get the ball in his hands. And he just makes things happen. You know, he played at Washington State, you know, which wasn't, you know, really a powerhouse, if you will, in Division I football. But he does a really good job. He's nuanced in his routes. You know, he's got that twitchiness where he can, you know, move real quick and force separation. I love him on those little whip routes, those little whip and goes. He's got a little bit of Darnell Mooney in him. Like, you know, he's a guy who's going to make a big play every so often, but he's a guy, you know, probably is going to put up a couple clunkers once in a while. Excuse me.
Yeah, I like Kyle Williams too, but not to the degree, you know, like Jalen's saying here. 2 words, Kyle Williams. I'm not in that camp necessarily, but I'm liking him more. I did some hanging out with Kyle Williams recently, and I know I like him a lot too. But I tell you, guy, I don't know if you guys have heard about this guy yet, but here's a guy I want you guys to keep your eyes on. Nick Nash, baby. But I like Savion Williams. You don't like Savion Williams. What is it about Savion Williams that you don't like, Dom?
Listen, he's very, very hokey. You know, if you looked up a hokey receiver in the dictionary, I think this is the guy you pick up. Like size, speed, all that stuff. 6'4", 225. You know, ridiculous. But you know, the one, you know, there's a bunch of things that I think are not great. You know, one being the fact that he just drops most passes that come to him. Like, you know, in his career, he's got almost an 11% drop catch percentage, which is awful. You know, he's, you know, played at TCU. Yeah. So he's got that, you know, he's got that route tree, which consists of 3 routes, you know, a slant, a go, and a quick hitch. They used him a lot on like those, you know, those bubble screens and stuff like that to put the ball in his hands and let him be athletic. And he's very good at that. You know, I like the idea that you can line him up in the backfield, Deebo Samuel style, and let him do some stuff that's different. He's an absolute phenomenal run blocker. But, you know, I like my receivers that can catch, you know, and I like my receivers that can do more than just run slant routes, slants and goes.
Look, he's at 89th percentile in his height, right?
Yeah, he's
10-yard split.
GreenBean, you've said it best, right? You've said it best. 6'4", 225 with a 4.35 40-yard dash. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. So, all right, interesting. Now Jack Besh is a guy you like.
Jack Besh is the guy I like. Jack Besh, to me, you know who he is? we'll play the comp game. You know who Jack Besh is? He's Adam Thielen.
Ah, interesting. Let's
He's
see who
Adam
they got
Thielen.
him comp
He's
to.
not the most athletic guy in the world, but he is just a football player. He knows how to get open. Outside of Emeka Buka and maybe Matthew Golden, I don't think there's anybody that runs better routes than Jack Besh. Former tight end, so he's going to be a dog as a blocker on the flank or from the slot. He's not the most. He's capped athletically, so doesn't have the highest athletic ceiling. But neither did Adam Thielen, neither did Cooper Kupp. Those guys just know how to get open, right? They build symmetry with the quarterback, and that's exactly what Jack Besh is going to be. He's going to make best friends with the quarterback. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean this wholeheartedly, guys. Wouldn't surprise me at all if someday he's a 100 catch receiver in the league, like a 100 reception receiver. He's not going to blow the top off anybody. He's not going to run past a lot of people, but he's just going to be like a really, really good, reliable guy. The question is with Besh is he anything more than just a power slot? Can he, because he's not very, fleet of foot. He's not twitchy. He's not super athletic. So is he going to be able to get off press man coverage as a boundary guy or are you going to have to put him in the slot and put him in motion to force his separation?
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, what do we got here? We got some comments.
Yeah, keep going. I'm on a
Why
roll
don't we
here.
just take a bunch of 6-7 round tackles and move them to guard? Oregon says, why don't we just take a bunch of 6-7 round tackles and move them to guard? Seriously. Remember that game last year, Oregon, where the Jets had 4 tackles and Joe Tippmann playing the offensive line? Ain't nothing wrong with that. We actually looked pretty good during that little spell there. And you wonder, what is it about this? This is kind of what it's. I mean, it's not exactly, but it dips into my philosophy, which is I don't need my offensive linemen to be, the most athletic, right? Like I would, if they're an impenetrable wall and they can move the defensive line back 3 yards, or you just, they're gonna open a hole because they're just so imposing. I'm good with that. Like I say all the time, 4 yards of play wins the game, right? And if you're pounding 4 yards, 4 all day on them, that's going to cause them to bring guys up, and then you got the passing game open, right? I got no problem with using the run to set up the pass and all that stuff. But why don't more teams just do that, Tom? Just take some guys that are tackles in college, move them inside, and just play the, I'm going to outman you game.
Well, I mean, it's different skill sets, from tackle to guard. It's not just, if you're big and you can't move very well, just go play guard. No, it's not. The technique is different. You're dealing with, some guys move better out in space. Some guys don't move, play better in the phone booth. Some guys don't handle, defenders on them, like you might have to if you're playing the guard. Somebody head up to you or shading the inside or something like that. Don't handle the one-on-one blocks very well. Some guys' hands their handwork doesn't really match their strength. If you're not strong with your hand placement and your punch as a guard, you can get beat inside all the time. And what's the worst thing for a guard is when you get beat inside, right? Because you're right in the quarterback's face. So, some guys don't have the anchor. Some guys don't have the ability to re-anchor. So it's not just that. It's not just as easy as you think. Depending on the offensive scheme, you might be able to get away with it more if you run more of an inside zone power gap scheme. That's why I think Mekhi Becton kind of flashed so much as a guard because, he wasn't asked to play in space a lot. He was just asked to play in a phone booth and just use his just natural God-given power to just dominate.
Yeah. But that's the thing too. It's you get a coaching staff that's smart enough to know that. If I do this with this player, he's not getting beat.
Yeah.
So why would I ask him to do things that he can't do? Yeah. You know what I mean? Start to put him in positions of weakness. And that's really what I hope we have in Tanner Engstrand, Dom. I'm really hoping. What kind of blocking scheme did the Detroit Lions run last year? What were they all about? Because they relied heavily on their two running backs. They had a very dynamic run game last year.
Yeah.
What were they rolling over there so we can kind of get a window into what to expect?
They ran a lot more. They ran a lot more power. They ran a little bit more of a gap scheme than I think Tyler Engstrand's gonna run. Now, I'm only going by what has been talked about with him and what his philosophies are. His philosophies are true. Like cut from the Bill Walsh, West Coast style offense. I'm assuming it's going to be more of a zone blocking scheme. That's my assumption. But there's no teams now that are pure, gap or pure outside zone. There's teams that trend a lot more one way or another. Houston under their former offense coordinator was like 90%, outside zone. But they ran some inside zone. They ran some power stuff as well. Every team does. So I don't know. I don't know what that's the big, the big question mark is no one really knows what the true philosophy of this offense is going to be because he hasn't done it. I know that he was very much involved in, in the game plans for Ben Johnson there. I know he didn't call the plays, but he was very much involved in installing the offense week in and week out. He's the one who set up the, he set up the play. He set up the call sheets. He was the one who really was the glue that put the plays together. He just didn't call when they were being,
Right.
called, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting too. You heard Aaron Glenn say this past week or so, he said, look, we have 3 big violent running backs and we're going to use them that way.
Yeah.
Like, that's exciting to me. It's like, again, like we talk about, playing to the player's strengths, right? Like, and I like to, we have so many examples of over the past 4 years, really longer than that, but over the past 4 years it's like we have these players doing things that they don't really do. Elijah Moore is a great example. We had him running go routes when his long speed or his height and contested catch, it's not his game, but that's what we're asking him to do every week. When what he does well is that surgical, route running over the middle of, the middle of the field. That's what he does. Get him the ball in there and let him juke some dudes and do what he does. And we rarely did that with him.
Yeah.
It's a silly thing. So hearing Aaron Glenn talk about our running backs like that, look, we happen to have a stable of backs. They're all young. They're all physical. And they love to like lay you out at the end of they're violent. So guess what? I'm going to let them be violent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what we're going to do. And I really hope that comes to fruition with the offensive game plan, man. Like, because if you do that, then what an asset for if we are going to try to make this Justin Fields experiment work. Having a running attack that not only is effective, but also wearing down the defense as the game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such a benefit. And we had games when the running backs had 8 total carries. Like, what is this?
And if Justin Fields is going to be effective, you're going to have to establish a running game because his real strengths and where he's going to be able to shine is in play action, right? When he can get out of the pocket, off platform, make things happen a little bit outside of the pocket. That's where he's going to make it happen. That's why, to me, the tight end is, and I'm far from a guy who's like thinks an offense has to be tight end reliant, but knowing who our quarterback is and what his strengths are, you better have a damn good tight end, right?
Agreed.
You better
100%.
have a damn good tight end that can chip and come across on those little crossing routes and get open and be the safety valve and know how to sit down and be able to kill you, with, like death by 1,000 paper cuts, those little knick-knack things, that's what this offense to me is going to have to be built on, right? Hand it off 4 yards, hand it off 3 yards, hand it off 4 yards, first down, hand it off 4 yards, play action 5 yards, little, a little dig route to the tight end, 3 yards, all those little things. Play action, open up a big play.
Yeah.
Garrett over the top, something like that.
Well, right. And then that's what you call a ball control offense, too. Keeping the ball in our hands, controlling the clock. All those things are symbiotic with one another. And that's what leads. And then, look, what's the next result of that? When your defense runs on the field, they're fresh. Red Bean checking in, talking about similar subject matter here. An offense with the exotic and successful running plays will likely be even more entertaining than a wild passing offense. What's more exciting? I know when the ball goes up, we all stand up. Oh, but what's more exciting than handing the ball off on your own 23-yard line and watching your running back break through the madness and start making his way toward the sideline, heading towards the end zone? What's more exciting than that?
Not much.
So it's the best.
Yeah. Not
So,
much.
if we start doing that, I actually agree with you, Red Bean. I think that's a great comment. And look, we happen to have 3 running backs. Again, young, powerful legs, all 3 good in the passing game. There was a little tape that came out this week. Braylon Allen working on his receiving skills, in a indoor facility. I mean, it's what you want to see. 3 powerful, violent running backs that can all be a weapon in the passing game. Come on. Aaron Glenn said there might be times we see all 3 of them on the field.
Yeah.
I love it. There's music to my ears, man. Who else we got here? I saw J.J. Hamza checking back in. This offensive line was built for the pass, which we did 65% of the time. If we're going to pivot to the run, he'll have to make changes on the O-line. Our current line doesn't run block so well. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with that, Hamza. I will say this. Our offensive line as constituted, especially last year, was not even arguably. I think it's suffice to say they might have been the worst coached unit in the entire NFL. Since when they brought in Keith Carter, the efficiency and the play of our offensive line the bottom fell completely out of it, right? The bottom fell completely out of it. Look at Max Mitchell's rookie year, right? Was he great? No. But he came in right away. I mean, he came in 22 and had to play in that Baltimore game, right? As a rookie right from the get-go. He showed flashes. There was it seemed like Keith Carter came in and the development of the offensive line just stopped. There was no identity in that offensive line last year. What did they talk about? Oh, we want to bring we don't want to get nasty. We drafted Braylon Allen. There's going to be more power, this and that. It wasn't. All right. I don't necessarily think that our offensive line doesn't block. John Simpson is a really good run blocking offensive lineman. AVT can hold his own. Tippmann, and this is my argument with Tippmann. I think that Tippmann, this is why I think he would be better as a guard than a center. It's Tippmann, where he struggles is winning or losing the leverage thing. Like, he's got that tall tackle problem.
Yeah, he's 6'6".
At 6'6", he just can't get his pad level as low. So he's not as in a phone booth. He's not the most dominating run blocker, but you put him out in space. You ask him, to lead out on a sweep or something like that, or get up to the second level. There's, Tippmann's one of the better ones in, the better interiors in the league that does that. So I think that might be fair. I think Olu gets a bad rap as a bad run blocker. I don't think Olu's a bad run blocker at all. I think Olu needed to get stronger. Strength was his problem, not run blocking or technique for that matter. He just needs to get stronger.
Right.
And then the right tackle, we still don't know who's going to play right tackle, so it's hard to say. So I'm not necessarily going to say it's a bad run blocking unit. I'm going to say they've been a poorly coached offensive line unit for 2 consecutive years.
Yeah, no doubt. And that, I mean, look, like it's like when you can't have both negative sides of the same argument, right? Like it's one of the things we do. Like, everybody agrees that our coaching was piss poor on the offensive side of the ball for the last 4 years. Right? You can't then also, I mean, it's not to say that things can't be true, right? But then, like, if you know that your team is being poorly coached, everybody's in bad position, the schemes aren't working, they don't use the game to their benefit. Like it's like, like I like to bring it up all the time, which is, it's 3rd and 1 and you have an empty backfield. Like, well, okay, well, you took away any threat of any. There's no thinking for the defense now.
Yeah, and even under the Zach era, like, it was really hard to run. Why? Because they stacked the box. They had 7 or 8 in the box all the time. I said,
Right.
"Fuck you, Zach, beat us."
And he couldn't do it.
So you have 5 offensive linemen and 6 or 7 guys coming at you. You're not going to win those, So I think overall it took the run game efficiency down. Now you hoped that would change last year, or obviously 2 years ago, 4 plays in, we lost Rodgers, but you hoped that would change last year. It didn't, and to Hams's point, like they never gave the running game a chance to get established. So you tie that in with Rodgers checked out of a lot of things, checked into runs, checked out of runs, flashed his gang signs to Alan Lazard and Devontae Adams, and threw those go routes. He was the offensive coordinator, but they never really gave an honest, like a good hard day's work and really establishing the running game. Tie that in with being poorly coached by Keith Carter, and it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and we switched the scheme this year. It was like all of a sudden they're going to do this and that. It's like, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Again, it's like what they did with, like, you look at like Michael Clemens on the defense side of the ball. They go, hey, you know what, man? We really like your fire. We're going to ask you to put on 20 pounds and we'll move you inside. He puts on the 20 pounds and they don't move him inside. Then they say, hey, lose the weight, again this year. And it's like, he's doing everything. It's like, what are we doing? Like, they don't know. Honestly, it's like you could clearly see it. And even when we fired Robert Saleh and Ulbrich gets bumped up to head coach, but he keeps the defense. So he's doing this job he's never done, and he's responsible for calling the plays. And like, did you ever feel at all, ever this last 4 years, that our coaching staff, you look across the field and they got whoever, a young whippersnapper, hot shot, offensive mind, or you're coaching against one of these, Andy Reid's, or did you ever feel like we had a shot to out coach them? I never did. Never.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. It's like, it's not to say that you're definitely 100% wrong, but what this offensive line can accomplish in the run game is really yet to be seen. Not to say that, look, if they start bringing in bodies, maybe they plan on not bringing back Simpson or AVT, and they're going to bring in some depth this year in the draft that can, kind of be developed, but that are going to be more potent in the running game. Maybe that's their thinking. Who knows? But anyway, I think the idea that they coached shitty is definitely got to be included in your recipe there. Now, Grandizer, who helps us out in the chat and is so awesome. Thank you. He has a question for you, Dom. He says, Dom, you mentioned about a week ago that Noah Coyne, wide receiver, big slot X, Case Western Reserve University. Are you still interested in him? What wide receiver who can maybe play the Y or tight end role, that flanker kind of a guy?
Yeah.
Any big bodied guys like,
well,
so?
Yeah, I can't answer the second part of that, but I got to be honest with you, Grandizer. You must be thinking about somebody else, because I have no idea who Noah Coyne is, and I fancy myself pretty astute. And I don't know everybody, but I don't know who Noah Coyne is. Case Western Reserve University. I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I see him here.
I don't know who he is. I'm
6'4", 225.
I did not watch any Noah Coyne, and it definitely wasn't me that was talking about him.
Case Western Reserve University. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's the second part of that question then?
Are you a big wide receiver who can maybe play the Y? Well, let me think about this. Off the top of my head, probably not. I mean, you got Aronde Gadsden, who in essence is that same thing. He was a wide receiver. Last year, they moved him primarily to that Y. Up in Syracuse, he was thriving there. I think that's probably the closest thing. I think Harold Fannin who everyone classifies as a tight end. I think he's more of that Y, that big receiver, big slot, if you will. I think those two guys would kind of fall in that. Jake Briggenstool from Clemson's another one who's more, classified as a tight end, but he's much more H-back and Y than he is, an inline guy. So those are the guys out of the wide receiver class. I just don't know if there's anybody that has that big frame or that skill set that's going to, fully transition to that role. I think that's more Fannin and Gadsden.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Grandizer. Thanks for all the help in the chat, buddy. Sam Aiken checking back in says, I'm loving this. Do you see the new staff developing guys like Carter Warren or Max Mitchell? What do you think about that?
I hope. There was some slight, like I said, I thought Max Mitchell as a rookie showed some promise.
Yeah.
You got to remember when you draft guys in the 4th round, for the most part, you're not expecting them to come in and pop off right away. You get lucky sometimes, absolutely, but those guys were definitely drafted to be developmental, right? And Max Mitchell, in a nutshell, didn't get a chance to develop. But his play absolutely regressed over the Keith Carter era. Like he just did not get, not even that he didn't get better, he got worse.
Right, no doubt.
And Carter Warren, he battled the knee injury his last year in college, was drafted in the 4th round, probably would have been a 2nd round pick if he had stayed healthy. But again, there's just no development. So you hope that the new staff is going to develop them. Now the question is, let's just, let's play devil's advocate here. If we do draft a tackle early, right? That tackle is going to be on the roster. That a core 4 is going to be on the roster. You obviously know that Ola is going to be on the roster. So you're probably only looking at one of the other 2 that are going to make it in Carter Warren or Max Mitchell, unless you move Max inside and have him be your swing guard as well, which is a possibility because, you can have Max and Xavier Newman as your backup guards. But is that ideal? I don't know. I think this offseason is going to, really tell us a lot about these 2 guys. I think the preseason is going to tell us a lot about these 2 guys. And I don't think either guy is a lock for the roster.
Yeah, it's something. You can't deny the regression with Max Mitchell. You just can't deny it. This, again, we talk about it week in, week out. It seems he's this past month or longer, but like the point cannot be ignored that this staff didn't develop one single player. And you saw numerous players regress, even to our free agent signings, guys like Lake and Tomlinson. It's like he comes here and they all of a sudden they suck. He sucks. Like what is that? And there's a lot to be said. Coaching matters, everybody. So look, I'm going to end this poll. Oh, no, I got another one from Red Bean here. Thanks, Sam. Red Bean, thank you, buddy. He says, we have 8 picks in this draft. It will only be a successful draft for if we add at least 2,000 pounds of new talent to the team and get bigger. Well, we added 900 on the defensive line this free agency, 900 plus. So you got to like that. Yeah. What do you think about the 2,000 pounds, Dom?
What's 2,000 divided by 8, GreenBean?
Let's do it. All right. 2,000 divided by 8 equals 250 per, an average of 250 pounds. That's not
right.
hard.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
I get a couple of 350s in there, and it brings your wide receivers in.
Yeah.
Now you can get a slot. I like it, Red Bean. I like how you think, man. That's super good. All right, let's end the poll. I asked you guys what you think Woody's real problem is. And I got a couple options up there for you. Let's see what you guys think. Where's the poll? Come on, YouTube. End it. Come on there, YouTube. Takes forever. Did you see it end? Where is it? Let me see here. Let me refresh. I ended it. Let's see. I want to see what. Oh, there it is. So top taking the cake, Dom, was he's detached from reality with 55% of the vote. I think that's a nice realistic option there. He's just stupid. 29% came in second. The Jeffrey came in with 9%. He's doing the. Remember the Jeffrey, Dom?
No,
You don't remember the Jeffrey?
no. What's the
Jeffrey
Jeffrey?
from the movie Get Him to the Greek. They were smoking a joint, and they told the poor kid, the young guy who doesn't do a lot of drugs, and they said, "What's in this?" He thought it was weed, and he goes, "Well, a little bit of LSD, a little bit of ecstasy, a little heroin," and they said all this shit. He's like, "I'm having a panic attack. Oh my god, I'm gonna die," and he's like, "Nah, you're fine." And the other guy goes, "I think he might die." And he's like, And he's like, it's a Jeffrey. And he goes, "Why is it called a Jeffrey?" He goes, "Because who could be scared of a Jeffrey? Jeffrey just some nice bloke from down the street. Hey, everybody loves Jeffrey." Anyway, and then you had alcohol as the 5%, the last one there. I think you guys are onto something. I think Woody's just detached. He likes to think he's included. He likes to think he really believes he's part of the club. But guys like that who are surrounded by everybody going, "Yes, boss. All right, great ideas." That's his whole life. He doesn't know how separated he really is. That's what I think, Tom.
Yeah.
I think he does think he's one of the boys, but when he leaves, the boys go, "Oh my God, thank God he left." You know what I mean? That's what it is. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it. Dom, what do you got coming up, my friend? Anything interesting you want to tell everybody about?
No, I've been doing a little bit of writing, GreenBean. I was brought on. I'm doing some writing for a publication called TWSN, the Right Way Sports Network. So I've got some articles out there. I got a lot of stuff, in the pipe for the next 3 weeks. I got some videos coming out. We got some good guests coming on. It's go time, man. Nothing crazy, nothing special. It's actually been a very tepid last couple weeks, but I'm being kind of dragged in a bunch of different directions. So been really focusing on just honing in and getting as much of the stuff that goes up here out to the masses, man. So
yeah. Well, hey, that sounds good to me. You're working on some different avenues. I like it. Yeah. Well, right here, I want to thank you guys for hanging out for the Thursday thick of it. We will see you 10 o'clock on Monday evening, everybody, for the 10 o'clock mock. What will the theme be? We just don't know for this week. Last week, we forced you guys to trade one of our 3 young superstars, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, or Garrett Wilson. You voted on Sauce Gardner, and that gave us a crazy draft. Getting that extra pick, we traded back. We got a first next year. It was crazy, and I think pretty damn stout. We were able to do some good things. So we'll see what our theme is this week. As you guys know, every single week, it's a brand new theme that forces us to look at the draft through an entirely different angle than you're used to. And we'll see you 10 o'clock for that. Talking Jets panel on Tuesday, Talking Jets. we do the after hours show after the panel here and have a lot of fun. But guys, I want to thank you for hanging out with us. With that all said, thanks, Yeti. We're glad you stopped in, my friend. With that all said, that's the end of the show, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, here we come, baby. Here we come. Here come the Jets, baby. I want to kiss you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah! You want to run or you want to duck down? You want to duck, just go over and get onto the bench and stay there.
You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets, Jets.